Well, don't just go. Say something to me.
Goodbye, Caroline.
There was another reason why you came by.
Hey, Porter Wren is a writer in New York who focuses on covering crime stories, although his job doesn't pay him much. To make ends meet, he struggles to provide for his family. During a party hosted by a wealthy businessman named Tycoon Hobbs, Porter meets Caroline, an attractive woman who appears to have ulterior motives. Caroline suggests that she has information that could be of interest to Porter and invites him to her home. Once there, Caroline presents Porter with a folder containing documents related to the death of her late husband, Simon, who was a prominent film director. The documents include photos from the scene and police reports indicating that Simon's body was found in a collapsed building. But how he ended up there is a mystery, and given that Simon held the keys to the front gate and there is a high fence around the building. After reviewing the documents, Porter heads back to his home. The next morning, Porter pulls out a piece of paper containing Caroline's phone number at his office. He phones Caroline, and when he arrives at her house, he asks her about the details of her relationship with Simon. According to Caroline, she met Simon at a bar after losing her job. They hit it off, and a few hours later, Simon proposed to her, which she accepted. They got married a few days later and had a happy 6 months together before Simon disappeared. Caroline was hesitant to report it to the police, fearing Simon's reaction if he found out. However, after 3 days, she realized something was wrong and contacted Porter. Many people trust Porter with their secrets, making him a go-to person in these situations. After grabbing his coat, Porter departs from Caroline's apartment, but realizes he has forgotten his phone and returns to retrieve it. While collecting his phone from the table, Porter hears water running and realizes that Caroline is in the shower. Curiosity gets the better of him. He sneaks up to the bathroom door and catches a glimpse of Caroline preparing the Three Fingers mixture. Caroline catches him in the act, and although Porter apologizes, Caroline questions if he enjoyed watching her. She admits that she was thinking about him while in the shower, and the two of them share a passionate moment before doing it. Despite being unfaithful to his wife, Porter begins to investigate the circumstances surrounding Simon's death. Caroline has something she wants to show only to Porter, leading him to a bank where a flash drive containing Simon's records is kept. After some time, Porter receives a call on his phone from an unknown person who tells him that Hobbs wants to meet him. Hobbs is the current owner of the newspaper where Porter works. As Porter leaves the bank, he realizes that he is being followed by a man. He chases after the man but is unable to catch him. When Porter meets Hobbs, he learns that Hobbs knows about his affair with Caroline, who has been sending Hobbs compromising evidence about a man without asking for any money. Porter is given the task of dealing with this situation since Hobbs is a very powerful and influential person. He starts to intimidate the man. Hobbs knows that Porter's family depends on his wife Lisa's salary, which Hobbs has the ability to influence and even take away her job. When Porter returns home, Lisa tells him about a peculiar patient who came in complaining of joint pain, but showed no signs of anything wrong during the examination. Later, when Porter meets Caroline, he tells her he has something to share with her. Caroline suggests delaying the conversation and starts inquiring about Lisa. Porter suspects that Caroline was the one who went to Lisa's appointment the day before out of curiosity, which Caroline confirms. Knowing that Lisa is clever, Porter asks Caroline not to see her again. Caroline queries Porter about whether he thinks of her when he is in bed with his spouse. He responds positively. Porter then asks Caroline directly about the record that was sent to his boss, and Caroline denies sending it. She hoped that Porter would discover this record while investigating Simon's murder. Caroline has no knowledge of who sent the record to Hobbs, but she was present when it was sent. As per her account, Simon constantly tested Caroline to explore the limits of her abilities. They made various agreements with each other. At Caroline's request, Simon had to comfort a dying man, and Caroline had to have intercourse with someone unexpected. However, a driver or gardener was not acceptable. That evening, Caroline spotted Hobbs on TV and recognized him immediately. She learned which hotel room he was staying in, and went there with a spy camera pen to record what was happening. From the footage, she concluded that Hobbs and the girl had a very secretive relationship. The next day, Porter went to a nursing home to meet with Simon's father. When he asked about the memory card, he didn't get a response, so he searched the room and found a video camera in the nightstand. As he was ejecting the memory card, he received a message from Lisa. When he arrived at the hospital, he learned that someone had shot her with a pistol. Porter is determined to protect his family, and he is willing to do whatever it takes to achieve that. He enlists the help of his confidant Kimball, who threatens to harm him if he doesn't call Hobbs the billionaire. Porter demands that his family be left alone, and he threatens to distribute 1,000 copies of a compromising video to various websites around the world if Hobbs doesn't comply. Hobbs is given 24 hours to deliver the record. After returning home, Porter watches the video he obtained from Simon's father, but it contains nothing significant except for Frank's request not to blame himself for what will happen. Later on, the video shows that Mrs. Sagal, who frequently visited Frank at the nursing home, also appears. Porter heads to the residence of the elderly woman, but his attempts to contact her go unanswered. When he eventually finds a key and enters the house, he hears a noise and hides behind a door as he is unable to leave the house. The woman, Mrs. Sagal, spots him and tries to call the police, but Porter explains his situation and presents his identification documents. Mrs. Sagal recognizes him as a journalist, having read his articles in the past. She reveals that Simon and her son Michael were close friends in their childhood. Unfortunately, Michael drowned at a young age, but Simon continued to visit Mrs. Sagal regularly and became like a son to her. Upon earning money, Simon frequently sent $2,000 to Mrs. Sagal. However, when Porter checked Simon's accounts, he found that the old woman received $5,000 instead. According to her, Simon's company paid her for sending flash drives to Hobbs, and she still had the last flash drive, which she gives to Porter. When Porter watches the video on the flash drive, he sees Caroline seducing Hobbs. But Hobbs confesses to Caroline that he has erectile dysfunction due to a past fight, and Caroline shares her story with him, but Porter can't hear what they're saying because they are speaking softly. Porter realizes that Hobbs was looking for this particular record and decides to give him the flash drive. The situation appears to be resolved, however. Hobbs informs them that Caroline's apartment was searched, and they discovered a key that didn't match any of the doors. The following day, Porter uses the key to enter the location where Simon's corpse was discovered. The key unlocks the entrance to a tunnel that leads to the basement of two identical buildings. A structure where Simon's body was uncovered was destroyed, but the other remained intact. Porter encounters a security guard who reveals that the elevator in the destroyed building was located in the basement of the surviving building, and it went unnoticed by the police due to a thick layer of soil covering it. Porter enters an excavated elevator of a demolished building with the help of a team he hired. His purpose is to test devices that are connected to several cameras. In a recorded video, Simon displays a valuable horse figurine given to Caroline by Hobbs in exchange for her story, which is quite expensive. Simon insists on Caroline telling the same story, but she declines as it is too personal for her to share. After breaking the horse figurine, Simon restrains Caroline in the elevator and swallows the key. He lowers the elevator while pulling Caroline along to avoid her death. Caroline agrees to share her childhood story. Simon stops the elevator, and Caroline stabs Simon in the neck with the pointed end of the figurine. To escape, she needs the key that Simon swallowed, so she performs a crude surgical procedure to extract the key from Simon's stomach. Porter goes upstairs and calls Caroline to inform her that he found the recording and handed it over to Hobbs. Caroline requests to meet with Porter and shows him the engagement ring she received from her new boyfriend. In return, Porter reveals something he found, the head of a horse figurine discovered at a demolished building, and he takes out the key that Hobbs handed him. Porter then mentions that the murder committed by Simon was captured on camera. After extracting the key from Simon's stomach, Caroline managed to release herself. She then secured the entrance to the tunnel by wrapping a chain around the door to prevent anyone from discovering Simon's remains. Meanwhile, Porter shows Caroline a flash drive and explains that it contains a copy of the recording. He then confesses to hiding the original recording and orders Caroline to never come back into his life. After wishing her well, Porter departs, and the movie comes to an end.